Okay, so we all think we know Leonardo da Vinci, right? The brilliant artist, the inventor, just a total genius. But what if I told you his genius wasn't entirely human? In this explainer, we're diving into a wild theory from our source material, the idea that da Vinci had some kind of otherworldly connection, and that he left behind coded messages just waiting for us to find them.
And this quote, it just nails the mystery we're about to get into. It frames his art not just as, a painting on a wall, but as a portal, a gateway. And yeah, as you're about to see, some folks believe that otherworld isn't just a metaphor. Not at all.
And right there, that's the heart of the whole theory we're digging into. The source material basically says, look, da Vinci's genius wasn't just him being smart. It was something else, an extraterrestrial influence. And the craziest part? He supposedly encoded this secret into his work for people like us to find centuries later. So to even get why someone would come up with a theory this out there, you've got to first wrap your head around just how insane Leonardo's mind was. I mean, he was so far ahead of his time, it's almost unbelievable. His brain was just on a whole other level, something the world had literally never seen before.
And here's the first big puzzle with Leonardo. See, because he was born out of wedlock, he was shut out of all the fancy elite schools. But get this, just by watching the world, looking at rocks, birds, how water flows, he taught himself everything. And he built up this body of knowledge all on his own that was just staggering.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. The claim here is that one guy, with no formal training, produced as much knowledge as an entire academy packed with the greatest minds of his time. How is that even possible, right? It's that question that really makes you start to wonder and opens the door to other possibilities.
Seriously, how did one person dream up things like helicopters and tanks and even robots when everyone else was still getting around with horses? It's that massive gap, that chasm between his world and his vision, that forces you to look for some seriously unconventional answers.
And that search for answers leads us to a really weird and maybe pivotal moment that Leonardo actually wrote about himself. It all has to do with his encounter with a mysterious cave.
So in his journal, he writes about finding this cave and being completely torn. On one hand, he's terrified of the darkness inside, but on the other, he's got this overwhelming curiosity, this need to know what marvels it might hold. Now, the fact that he bothered to write this down at all tells you this was a big deal for him, a really significant moment.
Okay, and this is where things get, well, pretty wild. The people behind this theory, they don't just see a cave. No way. They see a portal, a stargate, something that could have let Leonardo jump through time and space. And you know what? This could even explain his famous missing years, that period where all historical records of him just disappear.
So the big question is, could this have been the moment? The catalyst for everything? Was this when he somehow, downloaded the future? Just absorbed all that incredible knowledge that made him Leonardo da Vinci?
All right, so let's say Leonardo did have this secret, otherworldly knowledge. Where would you hide something like that? Well, according to the theorists we're looking at, he didn't really hide it at all. He put it right out in the open, inside his most famous paintings.
You've probably heard that Leonardo wrote all his notes backwards, right? So you need a mirror to read them. Well, the theory is that this wasn't just some weird habit. It was a clue, a key to his method. The idea is that he used the same trick in his art, hiding images that you can only see when you use a mirror.
So, how does this whole thing supposedly work? Well, investigators say you have to look at the hands of the people in the paintings. They're like a little guide for where you should place a mirror. Then, you create a mirror image, you line them up just right, and bam! Something totally new appears.
And the result? It's honestly kind of stunning. When you do this with paintings like the Mona Lisa or the Virgin of the Rocks, a whole new figure emerges. And this figure has a huge domed head, big eyes, a tiny chin. It looks almost exactly like what we would call a gray alien today. It's eerie.
Now, the mirror thing is one piece of the puzzle, but modern tech has uncovered a whole other layer of secrets. See, back in the early 2000s, scientists used infrared to look under the paint of another one of his masterpieces. And what they found underneath was a totally different drawing, one that Leonardo had intentionally covered up.
And the difference is just, whoa. What you see on top is a ruined building. Looks totally normal for a religious painting. But underneath, the original drawing shows a pagan temple being rebuilt over the ruins of a Christian church. I mean, for that time period, That's an unbelievably bold, even dangerous message to hide in your work.
Okay, let's step back and put the pieces together here. We've got this impossible genius, a mysterious cave encounter, and all these hidden messages. So, what's the big picture? What are we really looking at?
So we have this life-changing experience in a cave. We have these alien-looking faces showing up in mirrors. We have a hidden pagan message that flips a religious scene on its head. All of these clues seem to be pointing away from any normal explanation and towards something else entirely.
And this is what theorists say is the final piece of the puzzle. That hidden pagan temple drawing, in it, Leonardo put a very specific symbol, the flower of life. Now, to ancient mystics, this wasn't just a pretty pattern. It was the blueprint of the universe itself, a symbol of higher consciousness. And, this is the crucial part, some believe it's a key for connecting with extraterrestrial intelligence. And according to the source, Leonardo was obsessed with it. He drew it over and over and over.
Which brings us to the final, biggest question. If Leonardo really was hiding all these secrets in his work, why? What was the point? Who was he trying to talk to?
Well, the biggest theory of all is that Leonardo didn't just see his art as paintings. He saw them as tools, as conduits, a kind of technology designed to help people like us, generations in the future, connect to the very same source of knowledge that he supposedly tapped into.
And that leaves us with this one kind of mind-blowing question. Was the greatest mind of the Renaissance leaving breadcrumbs for us? A trail of coded messages, not for the people of his day, but for our time. A message that's been hiding in plain sight for 500 years, just waiting for us to get the right technology and maybe the right mindset to finally see what was there all along. So, what do you think?